India is home to 1.2 billion people, roughly one-sixth of the Earth's population. We quickly learned to expect the unexpected. That is part of the beauty and mystery of India. We began our journey in New Delhi and then traveled by bus to Jaipur, Ranthambore National Park, OAT tented camp in Agra. We took a train to Genesee and then by bus to Kahajura. Next by plane to Varanasi. Back on plane to New Delhi. We flew south to Chennai and traveled by bus to Malappuram, Pondicherry, Tanjore, the Chettinad region, Periyar, the Alleppey backwater, and Cochin. From Cochin, we flew to Bangalore and took a bus to Mysore, then back to Bangalore to fly home. Delhi began in the 3rd millennium BC. All of your senses are going full blast. Photos are wonderful, but they can't capture the sounds, smell, taste, and feel of this country. It is an assault to the senses. Congestion, color, and chaos abound. Electrical wires are jury-rigged precariously over roads. We also visited Rajghat, a beautiful serene monument where Mahatma Gandhi was cremated. The British laid out broad tree-lined avenues and street grid of New Delhi. Today, it is the center of government. Qutub Minar is an amazing UNESCO World Heritage Site. It was begun in the 12th century. It has become the symbol of New Delhi. We traveled overland to Jaipur. It was 190 miles on a national highway. As we drove, we saw lovely farmland, major call centers, towns, a camel caravan, and sheep. We thought, how long could it take? The national highway was so bumpy and crowded. Horns are constantly blaring as they are a signal that a car wants to pass. We stopped for lunch at a former Maharaja's palace. A wedding luncheon was taking place in the garden. We went to look and were welcome to take pictures and eat. This was a big wedding weekend. The astrologers select good dates that are auspicious for weddings. In the towns, there are cows everywhere. The fruit and vegetable sellers sing their prices and products calling you to buy. The women are the color of India. Even in the poor villages, they still wear vibrant colored saris and decorate themselves in jewelry. We visited a village of snake charmers. They actually perform an important function here. They are called to charm and then remove the snakes. They are paid and then take the snakes and defang them. The venom, skin, and everything are used. When we entered the huge courtyard, we were amazed by the splendor and beauty. Musicians were playing, painted elephants carried other tourists, and women dressed in saris were sweeping. Vendors were everywhere, selling puppets, Maharaja hats, paintings on silk, and 100 other items. We took a hot air balloon ride at sunrise. As the balloon began to rise, so did the sun. We were in the valley near Amba Fort. We floated high above the fort and the countryside. We then moved the way the wind blew over the city. We attracted a lot of attention as people below shouted and waved. Our pilot, Fernando, started to get very excited. It was the first time he ever got to fly over the city. We could identify all the buildings. Jaipur is known as the Pink City because of the rosy hue of its sandstone buildings. Our pilot said something about landing in his backyard, and I thought he was joking. He wasn't. We did. This remarkable astronomical and astrological observatory was built in the 18th century. The giant sundials here are still accurate to 0.2 of a second. The park comprises more than 100 square miles of deciduous forests and several large lakes, and until 1970, it was a hunting preserve of the Maharajas. Ranthambore Fort is a spectacular fortress built more than 1,000 years ago on a rocky outcrop with stunning views. It sits in the middle of Ranthambore Sanctuary. We rode in an open four-wheel drive vehicle, then hiked to the fort, a huge structure with a fascinating history.
ललितलवंगलता परिशीलन कोमलमलय समीरे ललितलवंगलता परिशीलन कोमलमलय समीरे मधुकरनिकरकरं.
We stopped at a local village to visit. We visited a local school that is supported by Grand Circle Foundation. The children and teachers were great. It cost $35 a year to educate one student. One of the teachers is a woman who is educated in the school. They have many girls in the school, and lower caste children are being educated with all other students. What a wonderful way to change the future.
मदन मनोरथ पति कवधू जन जनित विलापे मदन मनोरथ पति कवधू जन जनित विलापे.
Our guide had received an invitation for us to attend the inauguration of a Hindu temple. The amazing thing is that a Muslim from Chicago funded it. It gives you hope for the future.
जयदेव भणितमितमुदयति हरिचरणं श्रुतिजातं श्री जयदेव.
This ancient stepwell or waterway was built to provide a constant water supply to local inhabitants.
सरसवसन्त शीतलवनवर्णनम् अनुगतमदनविकारम् ललितलवंगलता परिशीलन कोमलमलय समीरे ललितलवंगलता ललितलवंगलता ललितलवंगलता.
The wife of the third Mughal emperor had a tomb built sometime before the Taj Mahal for her parents. It was the inspiration for the later emperor to build the Taj Mahal for his wife.
खेलत होरी श्याम मुरारी खेलत होरी श्याम मुरारी खेलत होरी श्याम मुरारी खेलत होरी श्याम मुरारी गोपियन संग भर पिचकारी गोपियन संग भर पिचकारी खेलत होरी श्याम
The tomb was built by Shah Jahan from 1631 to 1653 to enshrine the remains of his queen. It took 20,000 workers to build it. The queen had 18 children. 4 died, and she died either in childbirth or right after. The Shah had a dream of the vision of the tomb, but none of the architects came close to it. He heard of an architect in Persia and requested him to come. He refused. The architect was very much in love with the woman, so the Shah had her kidnapped and brought here. The architect came, and the rest, as they say, is history. Just like in St. Basil's in Moscow, the architect's eyes were put out so that he could not surpass his achievement. The reward for 20,000 craftsmen was to have their hands chopped off. Pretty gory stuff, and they don't tell you that in history books.
उड़त बीर गुलाल भार उड़त बीर गुलाल भार खेलत हो 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 खेलत हो
The temples were built between the 9th and 10th centuries by the Chandala dynasty, which dominated central India at the time. The early light was beautiful on the erotic stone carvings that symbolize the important role of love and prana energy in Hindu thought. British archaeologists excavated these intricate stone carvings during colonial times, when they scandalized post-Victorian English sensibilities. I can only imagine their shocked reaction to the Kama Sutra carving. We walked through the dark streets, people already waking and on the street, chanting, incense, cows, cow dung, garbage, a mixture of sights, sounds, and smells. Then to the Ganges, lights reflecting on water, a beehive of beggars, people, and boats. We were on the boat while it was still dark, but the sky was getting lighter and lighter. People were praying, washing, men were shaving their heads. Just the most amazing place, which can't be conveyed in words or photos. Just total sensory overload. From our boat, we witness the everyday life in the holiest of cities as the people arrive at the Ghats at dawn to take a ritual dip, perform yoga, wash clothes, and offer flowers and incense to the river. The Hindu believes that there are four mothers: the mother who bears you, cow mother for milk that sustains life, Mother Earth, and Mother River, the Ganges. Mothers are very revered. Bathing in the Ganges is sacred.
बम 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 भोले हर हर शंकर भोलेनाथ हर हर शंकर हर हर शंकर हर हर शंकर बम बोले 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 भोलेनाथ बोले हर हर शंकर बम बोले हर हर शंकर भोले
Then the ceremony began. Chanting, music, lights, fire. 4 of these ceremonies were going on at the same time. Thousands of people on land and in boats. It was amazing. There was a feeling of spiritual connectiveness. The carvings date from 500 BC to 1000 BC. They are incredible. What is really interesting is that you can see how they started. Rock caves in granite, then they developed into monolith symbols, and then evolved into temples. The bas-reliefs are beautiful. Near the Bay of Bengal, there are many inlets. Some of them are brackish. Areas are cordoned off, and sand is spread on top of the water. The water crystallizes after time, and sand is removed to reveal the salt. The salt is harvested and then stored in mounds with sand over it to dry. Men fill bags with salt, and women stitch them closed. In this area, salt is used to dry the fresh fish for storage. The city of Pondicherry was designed in French style with Parisian-inspired city plans. Pondicherry is a resort destination for beachgoers and the educational center for South India. There are 35 colleges and universities, from law schools to technical institutions. Cheddabaram is an important site for Hindu pilgrims. The temple has 4 beautiful towers, one north, one south, one east, one west. It is still an active temple with many worshippers. The main temple is dedicated to Lord Shiva and is a powerful symbol of the Chola Empire. It is representative of major achievements in architecture, sculpture, painting, and bronze casting. The temple tower is the highest in India. Chola Raja Raja patronized dance, music, and art and commissioned the building of a temple. It was consecrated in 1010 AD. On top of the 14 stories high tower is the bronze top, which weighs more than 81 tons and is 200 feet above ground. There are records of the construction, and it was done with an inclined plane, as were the pyramids in Egypt. These are incredible mansions that are now mostly uninhabited. For centuries, most of the people lived near Cochin on the Arabian Sea. 200 years ago, a tsunami wiped out many of the merchant storage areas. The Chettiars, a prosperous banking and business community, went inland for goods storage. Soon the wealthy built big houses. After many years, they moved away. We went to visit the most extraordinary temple. It is really a temple complex. In all, there are 13 towers. The smallest tower has 404 carved figures. The largest weigh over 1,000. The original temple was built before Christ. It was all destroyed except for the Sanctum Sanctorum. In the 1500s, it was rebuilt to its present form. The colors and the carvings are beyond description. The pyramid towers are called gopurams. These pyramid-shaped structures often function as gateways to the temple complex, but at Minashki, they rise above mere gateways. The highly colored tiers of sculptures culminate in shell-like finials. Men had dyed silk and were stretching the silk out to dry on what will become a huge loom. Each loom is 3 saris long. They have boats on the lake, but the only way to see the animals is to walk through the jungle. The trees are mostly teak, jack, and loads of bamboos. Spices grow wild everywhere. There was quite a surprise at the beginning of the walk. We had to cross the lake on a raft made of 10 bamboo stalks tied together. Getting on and off was quite a thrill. It was wet and extremely slippery, but we did it. Cochin was the first European settlement in India. The Portuguese came in 1500s. The new part is one island, the old part is another island. 1.5 million people live here. The population has more than doubled in the last 10 years. It is a major port and has become more and more congested. We went to the vegetable and fruit market. We saw powdered dyes in shocking hues set out in baskets like spices, smelled the sandalwood oil, and heard the raucous calls of the vendors, each trying to outdo his neighbor. The original palace was built in 1799. It burnt down during the princess's wedding. Work began on the present palace and was completed in 1912. Determined to never have a palace burn again, it was built with granite, marble, and ivory. No photography was allowed inside the palace, so you will have to take our word for its beauty. The palace is mobbed with tourists, as it is every day. We were among the few foreigners. Outside, some of the people wanted photos of us.
Visited 6 of the 28 states in 32 days. India is huge. The distance is beyond what we anticipated. We stayed in 17 hotels and 1 tented camp. We saw countless villages, farm areas, palaces, shrines, and temples. There were colors and smells and sensations that we never experienced before and never will again. We enjoyed the interactions in villages, cities, schools, and homes. It is not really a nation, but a collection of what were principalities ruled by royalty. Each one is now a state with its own language, climate, and culture. Hindi and English are the main languages, but the majority of Indians don't speak either one. There are 18 national languages. The biggest surprise was how incredibly warm, welcoming, and friendly the Indian people are. How magnificent their art and architecture is. What a gift it has been to see it and experience it all.